Okay, so back in Third Age Reforged, we're going to have a look at the Dwarves today, as opposed to Harad, because most people do want to see the Dwarves, and they're a popular faction for reasons which I'll get into in a moment. But first, there is a little announcement that I think I should make, and that is that in the last patch, Gondor underwent some changes that were not intended, I don't think, and for the moment, their cost to effectiveness ratio is skewed quite a lot to the point where they are quite underpowered at this point in time. I imagine that they will be patched relatively quickly to make them viable again, but what was, in my opinion, the strongest overall faction at this point in time has morphed into one of the weakest, and that is, of course, not the intention. And they will be fixed relatively soon, I think. So for the time being, though, just keep in mind that you might want to give any Gondor players a little bit more money because their mid-tier and low-tier units are, for the moment, very more expensive than they should be for their effectiveness. So that's a little announcement. And now we will get on to the dwarves. And first of all, I'll load up their roster and we'll take a look, and then we'll see them in action. Okay, so I've set up the enemy, and now let's take a look at the dwarven roster. And there is some very, very scary units indeed they have, but the dwarves overall, they haven't really changed too much from vanilla in what you're supposed to do with them, and that is they are an extremely defensive setup. And in my opinion, this made them very strong in vanilla because Medieval 2 and Third Age Vanilla in particular rewarded a more defensive playstyle as opposed to an aggressive one, in my opinion. And this meant that the dwarves were very effective in most situations anyway, particularly in a defensive siege, so they were easily the strongest defensive siege faction there was. They did always have a few weaknesses, and those weaknesses are still present, kind of, but we'll get to that in a moment. For a start, we'll take a look at some of their units. Starting with the miners. Now, the miners are really the only dwarf unit you could say are kind of trash. They are relatively cheap at 300, but their effectiveness is not great. They are effective against armor, which is an interesting trait, because of course they are technically shock infantry, although I wouldn't call a pickaxe a proper weapon, and they are well armored, so as far as trash goes, they are pretty damn good at bogging enemy units down and doing a surprising amount of damage to heavily armored units, but they will lose in most situations against units that will be facing them. So we won't be actually using the miners today because we are outnumbered and we need some better units. The Ironfoot Warriors, these replace the Dwarven Warriors from vanilla. They are the basic infantry. Despite being basic, however, they are pretty expensive. 650 is pretty expensive for a entry-level unit. This is sort of around the same sort of price you'll be paying for mid-tier units in most other factions. This is something they have in common with the elves, really. Most of their units are going to start off at a fairly high price point. But again, 44 defense for a basic unit is a lot. They don't have as many in the unit as you might expect, though. Obviously, I'm on, I think, only high units sizing, whereas on huge they will have a slightly more, but for performance's sake I will be using this level of men. But even so, they will have slightly less in the unit than most others that face them, but they will be primarily used on the defense with that very high defense score of 44, and they can make shield wall. So that's interesting. They're also effective against armor, so a very good entry level unit. The Ironfoot Halberds, of course. The Dwarf Halberdiers in vanilla were a very good cheap pike unit, and, well, halberd unit, and this is similar here. They're effective against armor, of course, like most halberdiers. Halberdiers are not quite as good as they were in vanilla, at least relatively speaking, for defensive purposes, but I think if you ever find yourself on the attack of the dwarves, these are a good first line in to a choke point, as they will do a good amount of damage and they won't fall over dead as quickly as orc halberdiers will, for example. There aren't as many of them though, so, just be cautious. Now the Khazard Warriors are essentially a slightly better version of the Ironfoot Warriors, a few more men in the unit, slightly better stats. Other than that, they're pretty much the same sort of thing. They look nicer though, I like the cloaks that they come with. And the Khazard Sentries are the first pike unit that you have. They have the very long spears. And, pikes, there's not really much to say about pikes other than they will hold the line, and dwarven pikes in particular, because pikes, their weakness is always missiles, and dwarves stand up better to most than missiles because of their very thick armor. So, very effective pikes, and there is another pike unit that is better than them, but the Khazard Sentries are a decent pike unit for what they are. 850 is quite a lot for pikes, but if you use them well, they're always going to be a good investment. The Hammers of Gundabad are a shock infantry, technically speaking. They are effective against armor, of course, with their giant war hammers. Their stats all round, they are still focused on defense though. They don't have any hit points, and 900 is quite a lot for a unit that doesn't have hit points, but they will do a lot of damage. And again, if you're on the attack in a siege, if you put these guys up onto the wall first, they will clear a nice space for you, generally speaking. Good unit to send in against trolls as well. They might not be as survivable as some of the higher tier shock infantry in the game, but they are still a very damaging unit, and because of their high defense score, they won't fall over dead as quickly as some of the other entry-level shock units, although at 900 I wouldn't call these guys entry-level. The lowest tier of shock infantry that these guys have, if you don't count the miners. Hammers of Gundabad, I really like the way this unit looks as well, so slightly biased there. But moving on to the Ironfoot Pikemen, this is the strongest pike unit that you'll have as the dwarves. Well, hang on a minute, let me just... well, actually... There are a few things that these two have different. I would say that the Khazad sentries, just being 40 less, but will be enough for you to buy them as opposed to the Ironfoot pikes, because overall the effectiveness of these guys is going to be relatively the same, and the higher defense score I think is just a little bit more worth it. But still, pikes, you know, and they're a very good pike unit as well. The dwarves have got some very high tier infantry units, of course. It's what they do best, and the Ironfoot pikemen are very good. It looks like they might have an axe on the back actually, so when the going gets tough and their pike formation gets broken, maybe these guys are slightly better. I'll have to test that out in a different video, I think. Now the Ironfoot Guard, these guys of course are the replacement for the Iron Guard, and here is where we start to get into the dwarf units which are the most scary. 25 attack, 60 defense. Now, you know, obviously these guys are going to last an extremely long time if you attack them from the front when they're in shield wall with 60 defense, and that's really what the dwarves are all about. You're going to have to catch them off formation in most situations. Of course, all of their units are very expensive, so 950 for what would be considered one of their mid-tier units is a lot, but you know exactly what to expect from relatively high-tier heavy infantry, especially Dwarven heavy infantry, because it is very, very durable indeed. Now the Axemen of Erebor. Again, these guys are basically a slightly more attack-focused variant of the Hammers of Gundabad. Now this ultimately means you will probably be using them more often, because that's what shock infantry should be. The Hammers of Gundabad are slightly cheaper. Now 1050 for a unit with no hit points is a lot again. They also have a bonus against cavalry though, as most axe units do. These are one of the best shock infantry in the game, in vanilla, but they have been outshone since then, in my opinion, but they are still a very dependable unit for the dwarves. You know exactly what you can expect from them. High damage, maybe not as high survivability as most other dwarven units, but they'll get the job done. Dwarven Noblemen. Now these guys have received a buff since I last covered them in the heavy infantry video, and they now have 4 hit points and 75 defense, of course, intended to be a general's bodyguard unit, and this is what they will be used for more often than not. But still, a very effective unit. Now the dwarves are going to swamp the best heavy infantry units even more so now, because you know their units have been buffed even more since then. There aren't very many of these guys though, so you're going to have to be careful. And then the highest tier shock infantry they have is the Sons of Durin. 2 hit points, 47 defense, 40 attack, extremely good on the offense. Although they are, of course, the dwarves are generally a defensive faction, so this is going to be the unit that you use to plug gaps in the line and do a lot of damage to enemy forces which you consider most dangerous. The Sons of Durin, one of the best shock infantry in the game. Again, if they are the best, I don't know. I don't think so. I think there are a couple of units that are better than them still, but still a very, very dangerous unit to engage head on. And then we come to the 3 units which are at the highest point of the heavy infantry of the dwarves. The Guards of Khazad-dûm, 72 defense and 4 hit points and shield wall. Dragon Slayers, 75 defense and 4 hit points, and the Mithril Guard, 86 defense and 6 hit points. These 3 are going to be the units which you're going to have the most difficulty defeating because of how strong they are on the defense. The Dwarven Noblemen you can actually throw into that mix now as well. Just a very, very difficult unit to take on indeed. The Mithril Guard will get their portrait back, of course, because they are the replacement for Balin's Guard. Then there's the Sons of the Fallen. Now, these guys were the strongest spears already, in my opinion, but now they've been made even stronger. 3 hit points and 80 defense. That's going to be very difficult to get through. And again, you could pretty much lump these guys in with the very high tier units. So difficult to break down. And that's the main strength of the dwarves, these guys. You're going to have a lot of issues. They are all very, very expensive, so you're not going to be able to fill your army with them, but At the centre of any dwarf army, you're going to find one or two of these units, and it's going to be very difficult for you to kill them off. A new aspect to their army are the Khazad Orc Hunters. Now, the dwarves didn't have any composite archers at all in vanilla. Now, the Khazad Orc Hunters are not the best archers, it must be said. They are pretty good in melee. Their missile damage is only 11, which compared to some of the better archers is not going to be all that much. But still an interesting addition because it means that they are able to engage enemies at bigger ranges or longer ranges than they once were, and it does plug a bit of a weakness that they had, although not entirely, as I will be explaining in a moment. Then we'll save the crossbowmen for in a minute, because we have the Ironfoot Axe Throwers and the Khazad Doom Reclaimers as the two axe throwing units, essentially javelin unit throwing units. You know what to expect from these guys. They will be very, very deadly at close range. They'll be able to really lay a unit low when they're charging towards you, although it is worth mentioning they don't have the most ammunition, so you're going to need to focus your fire down pretty severely. The Khazad Doom Reclaimers have received a bit of a buff as well, and it is entirely possible they are now better than the Muhar Tribesmen. But again, that's something that I will need to revisit at a later date when the game is probably in 1.0 is when I'll have a look at all the units in detail again, which will be quite a while, it must be said. The Ironfoot Crossbowmen and the Blacklock Engineers are two units, of course. Crossbows are relatively straightforward to understand. They don't have the range that archers have, but as long as you can get a linear line of fire, they will punch through even the most heavily armoured unit, and the Blacklock Engineers in particular, with that 22 missile damage, are going to be very, very deadly if you play into their hands. Something that the dwarves didn't have a lot of in vanilla, in fact they only have one unit and it wasn't particularly good, was Cavalry. But now they have their War Goats, only 2 units, and they don't have very many in the unit. Only 500 florins though, that is a relative bargain, all things considered. Although their stats may be not quite as strong as many other cavalry. They are intended, I think, to just plug that gap. The dwarves, they have really the same thing as Eriador. They're not the highest tier cavalry faction, but they have enough that they're not going to be sort of ridden over by the likes of High Elves and Rohan quite as easily with their cavalry. And of course the Ironfoot Hammer Guard, intended to be a bit more of a general's bodyguard unit, a King Dane-esque unit. And then of course Ballista and Catapult. You will be seeing siege from the dwarves because generally speaking they're going to want some of that long range to force archer heavy factions like the Sylvan Elves to be a little bit more uncomfortable with just sitting back and shooting them. But yes, the real weakness is still archers in my opinion. Cavalry is still a bit of a weakness, but I would say the dwarves have managed to skirt around that with cavalry of their own that's decent, and the fact that if you get near them their crossbows are going to do a lot of damage if you dither, so there is that. But I still think the archers are going to be a bit of a problem because the dwarves want to be defensive, but generally speaking, they are going to be outranged by the vast majority of other factions, and you're going to see a lot of archers if you play the dwarves. But let's build an army, shall we? I feel like that took longer than it should have. We will, of course, have the Mithril Guard as our general unit. Now, we might not even have a full roster, but I will be getting as many Khazad sentries as I'm able. We'll get a few Ironfoot pikemen as well. So you can have more Ironfoot pikemen. In fact, I think I will have just Ironfoot pikes instead then. What else shall we have? We shall have Blacklock Engineers or Khazad Doom Reclaimers. Who's better in melee? The Khazad Doom Reclaimers. Okay, we'll get some Khazad Doom Reclaimers and we'll get some Ironfoot Crossbowmen. That's going to be our ranged contingent. And other than that, I think we will get some Sons of Durin. We can only have one unit then, huh? We get some Sons of Durin and we'll flank them with a couple of Hammers of Gundabad. And other than this, I think what we're going to want is some Khazad warriors to sort of fill out our army. And then maybe we will get a couple of units of Ironfoot Guard, and then we have enough for another high tier unit. So I think we will get the Dragon Slayers of Ered Mithril. Do we have enough to upgrade you? No, we don't. We do have enough to give you some weapon upgrades though. Okay, so let's start, and I will see you on the battlefield. Okay, so once again, the nuke box is real, and we've got the pikes at the front, of course, and I've got some shield wall here. Now, this is a situation in which the dwarves should really excel, because I haven't given the enemy any missile troops, because the AI tends to not cooperate when you give them missile troops, as I've noticed. But they do have a lot of infantry, and they do have some decent stuff as well, like Uruk-hai pikes are going to be decent to try and push through. They've got some Wardens of Dunland in there. We've got some berserkers here and there, and of course the Orcs of the Misty Mountains are way over there. But by the time they arrive on the scene, I would imagine that there's going to be some damage done. Right, I need to be careful that I'm not actually shooting into my own men. And in fact, the crossbows have not got an ideal fire in mind. Okay. So I think what I'm going to have... it's not great. Right, I thought that was enough of a gradient, but apparently not. They've done a ton of damage to one unit anyway, so I think I might just leave them firing. Not the end of the world anyway. The real stars of the show are going to be how well my infantry holds. And they are in range, and it does look like the AI is going to do that thing where they just sort of sit in range of my missiles once again. And I'm very okay with that. Over here, the Khazad-dûm Reclaimers will be focusing more on the Misty Mountains when they get here. Particularly on something like the Blackwatch Legion, which I've given them. They are missile resistant, but I'm not sure how... Oh god, I put my own pipes. Not great. Okay, let's move forwards a little bit, shall we? Try and get a little bit more of that gradient going on. Move up my Ironfoot Guard as well, to make sure that my support is ready to go in. Some of my units of crossbows have got a nice line of fire, even if I've been hitting my own men in the back, but never mind. We're fine. Balance of power is not in our favour. Ugh. Let's get further down this gradient, really. If I go much closer, I'm sure they're going to charge. Well, they've got pikes at the front, so... Okay, let's see here. Misty Mountains is going to take some time to get over here, so I think they're probably going to be okay. Let's move you guys up a little bit, and then we'll move the pikes forward again. This was a shoddy deployment on my part. Actually, no, you stay in this divot so you don't get shot by the crossbows. Once again, we will move you guys up a little bit more. You're going to try and wrap around with some of that high infantry, aren't you? Well, I will have my Dragon Slayers here, so good luck with that. You attack those guys. You attack the Berserkers, and you attack Pikemen. I do like the new unit models for the Dwarves as well. They've all been sort of redone. And I do like the armour that they've got on now a little bit more than what was in vanilla. The Sons of Durin look particularly mean and menacing. With all the helms going on, but they don't need them. Not with mighty hammers like that. I'm still hitting my own pikes? No, I'm not. Okay, that's good. Unit of Berserkers is going to be taking some fire. They are not eager to engage me, are they? This is very odd indeed. One can only fathom the mind of the AI in Medieval 2, I suppose. Because really what they should be doing is trying to damage me as much as possible and engage me as much as possible so the Misty Mountains can come in and just sort of attack my backlines. I don't have enough troops to really engage them both, but there we go. Dunland Veterans, probably not the best target, but it's a target I can go without, or get to without killing my own men, so I'll take it. My crossbows are pretty good in melee as it is, so I'll be able to use them as makeshift infantry as well. Interesting. The Isengard army is more elite than the Misty Mountains one, so I'm very okay with damaging them as much as I am. We have Berserkers and Uruk-hai Bodyguard and Wardens of Dunland. Oh, the Wardens of Dunland. Around there somewhere. Well, whatever. Maybe I didn't give them Wardens of Dunland, that's odd. They've got a lot of pikes though, and a lot of Uruk-hai infantry. And those guys are not terrible. They will do a decent job. Meanwhile, the Misty Mountains are taking their sweet time getting over here. You guys can actually go after this unit of Uruk-hai infantry now. Fire in. Berserkers are a good unit to use against the Dwarves as well, and they are just letting them die. Mainly because you need something decent to smash through a Dwarven defense, and the Berserkers are better positioned than most to do that. Especially seeing as they don't actually have a great deal of armor, so a lot of the effectiveness against armor of the dwarves is kind of wasted on Isengard's heavy hitters. We don't have any trolls, but trolls really are a little bit more dangerous to use against the dwarves because they have got a lot of counters against them. Hammers of Gundabad and Sons of Durin are two examples of that. And most Dwarven infantry has got the effective against armor trait, which means most trolls are going to fall pretty quickly. But Berserkers and Nazakai are a different story. More cost efficient. Is this unit of crossbows shooting up into the air? No, they're not. They're getting linear shots. Okay, that's good. What's this unit doing? Madness. What else can we target? Target you? No. We could target you, but I think I'm going to hit my own shield wall in the back if I do that. Yeah. That unit of pikes is pretty much dead though. Seems like a bit of a waste to try and kill them more. I'll go after this unit of infantry as well. Several units are just going to break on contact because of how many casualties they've taken. This unit of Dunland veterans comes to mind. But here comes the Orcs of the Misty Mountains. They have got a good amount of troops. They've got a lot of underground goblins, which aren't going to do an awful lot, but they do have Blackwatch Legion, Orc bodyguards, quite a lot of Mountain Uruk blades as well, which are slightly better. Mithril Guard. I'm going to have to get ready with the Mithril Guard over here, I think. They are not going to be able to punch through the Mithril Guard, I don't think. Such a strong unit. I mean, they are basically Balin's Guard in terms of their unit model, but 6 hit points and 86 defense. That is not easy to break down. And I am very confused as to why Isengard... You know what, I'm going to speed this up a little bit. Get the Misty Mountains to hurry up, because it seems like they are going to be the ones to attack. I really should deploy in the middle, because I think that would solve a lot of these issues. Right, and now they are, in fact, doing something. What's this over here? Mountain Uruk Blades. That is a unit which is not in formation at all. What are they doing? Still not in combat anywhere. They just recognize my superiority and don't want to attack? Mountain Uruk pikes. Ooh, that's actually something that I may want to... Oh dear. I'm actually hitting my own men there. Not good. Shoot them. Nope, 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 nope. You attack that Uruk infantry. You attack those Mountain Uruk pikes. My underground goblins are going to do an exceptionally poor job against Mithril Guard. Although I do think I'm actually going to have to pull one of my Hammers of Gundabad out, because they are trying to envelop me. Orc bodyguards, they've deployed their general right there. That's bad. He's going to die almost immediately. They are finally getting into melee. Right, let's get these guys into... Right. Just fire into there. Victory seems certain for the Mithril Guard. That unit of Uruk-hai infantry needs to be dealt with. Being enveloped is going to be a bit of an issue here. Actually, no, I need to keep you guys back. Defeat is a distinct possibility for my Khazad warriors. That's not fantastic. But everywhere else I think I'm going to be okay. Which is a distinct possibility for my pikemen. Right, in fact, I'm going to... Get in there. More Hammers of Gundabad. Mountain Uruk Blades are not going to be a match for Hammers of Gundabad. These Khazad Reclaimers have hit points as well. My Mithril Guard are not going to be killed off easily by out-of-formation pikes either. So we should be okay, but over here the Blackwatch Legion are in fact going to beat my Khazad warriors. That is a bit of a problem. In fact, the Sons of Durin are over here somewhere. Defeat is a distinct possibility for them as well. Interesting. Was I too generous with my funding to the enemy, I wonder? Defeat seems certain for them over there. Okay, so... wait a minute. Right. Let's deploy you guys in there to sort of plug the gap. The Blackwatch Legion are in fact breaking through. You guys out of ammo as well? No, you're not. Okay. You fire at them. My pikes are going to be victorious over here, though, and my dragon slayers are probably going to be victorious as well. Balance of forces is evenly matched. Well, I think they should be okay. Well, Ironfoot crossbow man. Need to get them out of melee. Only Mountain Eric blades, but I need them to shoot into the backs of these guys, really. The Blackwatch Legion are in melee against the Khazad-dûm Reclaimers, but they are tougher than the warriors that they smash through.
Only half the enemy force remains.
Right, this is going to be a little bit more trickier. Well, a little bit trickier than I would have liked. But let's see here. The Hammers of Gundabad are going to win here. If I can fire into the backs of the Mountain Eric blades, these guys will hurry up. Then I should be able to route these guys over here. The Mithril Guard are in good shape because they are very difficult to kill. Really, it's the Blackwatch Legion I need to deal with. Oh god, actually that's a very bad. They've broken through an area of my pipes. We're gonna have to shoot at them. Interesting. Okay. Fire at them, and we'll break them, and then hopefully we'll be able to sort of wrap around that way. Because the Blackwatch Legion are kind of overextending themselves. There's still Khazad warriors in that fight. My Ironfoot warriors over here that were in Shield War, or the Ironfoot Guard, victory seems certain for them. There's still berserkers on the field. That's not fantastic. It's going to be a pretty close run thing. Over here, meanwhile, they are going to, at least they should be, firing. Guys, please. You know what? You guys go over here, like this. There's the Hammers of Gundabad. You guys need to keep pressing. Khazad-dûm Reclaimers. You still have missile ammo. So do you. Okay, so you guys need to come back over here. Right, this is looking bad here in the center. It looks like my pikes are going to be overwhelmed. We're still ahead though. So that's important. We are winning comprehensively over here. They have actually managed to kill some of my Mithril Guard, but that's unsurprising. The amount of... Right, come on guys. Right, okay, fire into there. My Ironfoot crossbows are not... they're in melee against some random infantry that managed to break through. These Dunland veterans are not going to stand a chance against the Dragon Slayers. We've lost half of our men. The enemy are being made to pay, and I think they have actually blown their load a little bit. Because over here we are starting to have some success. The Hammers of Gundabad have comprehensively beaten the force that they used to try and envelop me. Dunland veterans are going to get into those Khazad-dûm Reclaimers. Those Blackwatch Legion, there's still a lot of them.
The enemy are badly blooded. They have lost half their
Right,
men.
we need to shoot those Mountain Eric blades before they come back. Those Hammers of Gundabad need to get back to the main fight. That unit needs to tighten up a little bit. You guys need to fire into the sides of these Blackwatch. It's not really the most efficient use of your... in fact, yeah. I'm going to try and go for kills with you. Those underground goblins are going to get absolutely hammered. I gave them a lot of pikes, and that was how they are doing pretty well against my front line. You guys need to fire into those underground goblins. A unit of Mountain Eric blades is going to break pretty quickly under the pressure of the crossbows, I would have thought. Meanwhile, my mithril guard is actually starting to fall. So they are finally starting to succumb to the continuous pressure of endless waves of trash. Like those Dunland veterans are... They're broken. Shoot into the Dunland veterans. You guys are about to run out of ammunition. Right, okay. Charge into them. We need to patch the line up where we can. Oh, in fact, that's bad. Yeah, charge in there. Actually, you charge into them and you charge into them. What have we got going on over here? We need them to break in an area, really. They still have berserkers back here, though. Defeat seems certain for the Ironfoot crossbows. That's unsurprising. They are up against Uruk-hai bodyguards. Bloodied up Uruk-hai bodyguards, though. Really do with the enemy generals dying. That unit Mountain Uruk Blades is routing. We need to get this crossbow unit in behind and get these guys to rout so that we can free up our hammers of Gundavad and our mithril guard. This is tense. The Blackwatch Legion are proving to be a real pain in the ass. The Khazad-dûm Reclaimers are good in melee, and that is really what is saving my efforts at the moment. Oh dear, that was a poor decision by the enemy. Shoot those mountain Uruk pikes because they're going to try and get you in melee. You guys need to bunch up a little bit more. What's going on? Oh, bodyguards. That's going to rip through them. Meanwhile, you guys need to attack the orc bodyguards. Oh, they're not going to get another shot off, are they? Shame. Actually, they are. Good, good, good. Okay, that's actually working out pretty well. Over here, though, that's a problem. That is a big problem. We may lose because of that mass rout. Not good. They're going to be able to run amok all behind my lines now. Okay, I'm going to need to disengage this unit of hammers of Gundavad, and hopefully we can kill their generals. I think that's what we're going to have to hope for at this point. Come on. Get out of the combat you're currently in. No, come on. Defeat seems certain for them, right? Okay, that's good. Those are only underground goblins. Well, this is a real problem. This over here. They've actually used their berserkers now as well. Victory seems certain for my dragon slayers, but they are very much tied up. Balance of forces is evenly matched. I need to get my crossbows free. I cannot do that while the orcs of the Misty Mountains are attacking them. Okay, they still have way too many troops for me to deal with, I think. They are very much starting to pull ahead. Cowards! How could dwarves break? So much trash. This unit of Mithril Guard. They should be fine. This Underground Goblins unit is... it's tipping the balance in a way I don't really want it to. These Ironfoot crossbows are dying as well. That's a real problem. This is the problem. I don't have any free units. They can really just charge me wherever they want. So I think this is going to be all she wrote. Interesting. Well, these underground goblins are dying quickly, but not quickly enough. What about this unit of orc bodyguards? If I can just kill the Misty Mountains general, that might help me. The underground goblins would probably break at that. But that's not going to help at all. These Khazad-dûm Reclaimers are damn good in melee. They've been able to see off the Orc bodyguards. In fact, we don't want you to get away. We want to kill the generals. That might just give us the edge we need. Actually, you guys can come down here now. Destroy these Mountaineeric blades. We're still just about ahead. Where on earth is the Misty Mountains general? There he is, and he's dead. Like, that might be the break we need. Is that going to cause these guys to break? Well, they're wavering. And they are broken. Excellent. Right. That's a big rout. Okay, Uruk-hai bodyguards. Blackwatch Legion probably won't break, but... Finally, we have our fucking crossbows free of garbage. Don't think it's going to help too much, though. They don't have many men left in the unit, and we need you to run, actually. Is this a unit that isn't breaking? Yeah, well, they're routing, so maybe it's going to be fine.
For the moment, the fortune of battle goes our way. Let's pray it
Tense.
remains as such.
Where's the Uruk-hai bodyguards are going to lose to the Mithril Guard and the Hammers. I need you to bunch up a little bit more. I need you to not do this scattered approach that you've been doing this whole battle. That's very bad. Okay, don't return. For fuck's sake. No. You charge over here, then. Get into the Mountaineeric blades. Kill them. Fine. We'll go behind my man with the crossbows and try and kill the Uruk-hai bodyguards.
Our army is tiring.
Yes, our army is tiring. I'm not surprised. No, come on, run. The Khazad-dûm Reclaimers have really saved my bacon here. They've been absolutely phenomenal in melee. Where my Khazad sentries kind of crumbled before the survivability of the Blackwatch, they did not. No, don't get into melee. For fuck's sakes. More Mountaineeric blades. Victory still seems certain for the Reclaimers. As soon as the Uruk-hai bodyguards fall, that might be the break we need. This unit of pikes cannot make up its mind. It should be attacking the back of my Khazad-dûm Reclaimers, really. Right. Fire. Close range. Shoot them. This is it. This is the chance. And there goes the bodyguards. Well, there goes the general, I should say. Right, I don't think that's going to be enough to break berserkers, to be fair, but we will fire our crossbow bolts in there, see if we can do some real damage to them. Those Mountaineeric blades are breaking. Another unit I've been very impressed with, actually, the Hammers of Gondor. They have done very well for a unit that doesn't have hit points. In terms of survivability, the Sons of Durin I've really sent into a very sticky situation. It does look like I am going to actually win this. My units are considerably more survivable than theirs at this point in time. No, don't shoot the Hammers of Gondor, for Christ's sake. We need to get in behind and shoot them. There's still underground goblins running around. A unit of pikes could be a bit of a problem. Now they're finally trying to close the jaws on my Khazad-dûm Reclaimers, which is what they should have been doing from the start. What's that? It's a single Mountaineeric blade. No, not underground goblins. Actually, underground goblins, it's fine as long as we can tie them up. It's a bit of a shame, but... Ugh. Defeat is a distinct possibility. It's unfortunate. But as long as we can keep them away from the main fight, we should be alright for the time being. They still have berserkers in there? Yes, they do. Victory seems certain for the berserkers now, but they are... They're wavering, they're not breaking. Why are they leaving the fight there? This is tense. My crossbows are getting slaughtered by fucking goblins. This unit of... Yes, right, they're free.
Our men are... The enemy army flees the field.
Oh, they broke.
After them. Cut the cowards down.
So that's victory, I think. Nope, it's not. We need to kill those berserkers. That's the Misty Mountains gone, though. They lost their stomach for battle. Oh, and 2 crossbows managed to survive their ordeal. But this unit of hammers of Gondor should finish the berserkers, really. Berserkers are tough customers, but they have their match here, I think. My word. So the Khazad-dûm Reclaimers and the Hammers of Gondor came out of this looking very, very good indeed. The Mithril Guard, of course, took on a heavy load as well. Khazad Sentries, I guess I did ask quite a lot of them to hold back that many men, but they did crumble a little bit more quickly than I would have liked, particularly seeing as the Blackwatch Legion are not really designed for attacking purposes, and that was what they were used for, so... Interesting, but still, the dwarves excel in this kind of situation, and grinding out a success out of something that looked bleak is certainly something that they are very good at. This last berserker is the only one still fighting for the forces of evil, and he won't last much longer. Come on, fall. Fall, damn you. It's hopeless. Fall over and die. He doesn't look eager to die, does he? Well, there he goes. And there we have it. Victory. A painful victory. Clear victory is being a little generous, but have a look at the stats. So the Mithril Guard, a lot of casualties inflicted. They were right in the thick of it. The Ironfoot crossbows, of course, got quite a lot. Khazad-dûm Reclaimers held very, very well. The Pikes held better than the Sentries did, or the Warriors, I should say. Yeah, not a great performance by the Warriors. I did ask maybe too much of them, though. The Ironfoot Guard broke when I really didn't need them to. The Dragon Slayers didn't do as well as perhaps I would have liked, but they were up against Pikes in an unfavourable engagement. The Sons of Durin were right in the thick of it as well, so interesting. That unit of Hammers of Gondor, 572. Very impressive. So that is the Dwarves. You know, obviously they are very, very good on the defence, and next time we will take a look at Harad and the men of Umbar, and I hope you will join me for that one as well, and hopefully it will be a little bit smoother than this one was, and I hope to see you there.